Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we'll be giving an update on our Curse of Strahd home game so far. Welcome to True Strike.
Welcome back, everyone. It's been a while since we had our Curse of Strahd check-in, so here we are. We have had a few games since we last spoke, and some were pretty eventful, to say the least. So, yeah.
So on today's episode, we're going to kind of give a recap of what we've done so far, and just to put this out in the top, if you have not played Strahd, or you're going to play Strahd, or you are going to play Strahd but you don't care about spoilers or whatever, there will be spoilers for the Curse of Strahd campaign. Not entirely necessarily as written. This is our own version of it. But if you're going to play this game and you don't want spoilers, things will be spoiled for you. So if that's you, come back later.
Yeah, that was actually something I was about to ask you, which was, I knew we should give a spoiler content warning.
Yes.
But I honestly don't know much about this module at all. So I don't even know how much of this is actually straight out of the module. I know some of it is because I've seen some official Beetle and Grimm stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, how much of it is actually, spoilery, or how much of it is stuff that you kind of off the cuff.
And that is one of the cool things about this game, or, D&D as a whole, really, is every table is going to be different, and every DM is going to run things different. And I could run this game 3 years from now and run it completely differently. I could start you guys on the left side of the map instead of the right side of the map, and change up so many things. Like the different NPCs you would have met off the get-go would have been different. And that is actually something people do. Some players or DMs actually recommend starting on the other side of the map, and it gives you a very different introduction to the game.
That's cool.
Right? And that's really neat. It's neat. The community around this game is massive, and it's huge, and there's so much content out there. But yes, the biggest thing, if you don't want this game spoiled for you, please come back later. We're not trying to ruin this for you. If you're just here for the ride, welcome back. Hello. If you've played it before and you're here for our take of things, hi, it's really nice to have you. Please leave a voicemail on our channel. Go to anchor.fm/TrueStrike and leave us a voicemail, or participate in the polls and get in there and let us know what you think of things, and let us know if you would have ran things differently, or some feedback on what we should do. Things like that on Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up anywhere you can reach us, and we're always listening. We're always welcoming feedback, and thank you for doing so.
Yeah, even if you're just coming in to make fun of party members' silly decisions, that's fine too.
You talking about Hootzifer?
Yeah, he made some decisions.
We'll get to those in a second.
Yeah, so I guess the first things first is where we left off. We had just come into Barovia proper. We were walking out of the mists.
Yes, and really quick, Richard, This is to you specifically.
Whoa.
From me.
Oh, God.
I understand a lot of this is going to be primarily you giving like a recap, because you're really good at that kind of thing. And, I'll pitch in here and there and everything. If you have any questions at any point from either my perspective, or maybe how something could have went differently, or anything like that, if I can answer it, I will.
I was going to say, because I think there's probably a couple questions in there that you're going to be all like, let's move on.
Yeah, totally. But
because you don't want to answer them.
Absolutely. Or if it's something that will come back up, maybe we move on from it. And either way, you've gained no extra knowledge. But feel free at any point, Q&A style. But like you were saying, in the session 0, we introduced our characters. We had Moses, the barbarian. We had Hootzifer, the cleric. We had Trist, the
bard.
And we had
Glad you forgot what I was already.
Norg the wizard, least memorable of the lot.
The person who does the thing.
The card person. And they went to the school, and they left the school because their mentor, Zith, went to, check in on some other youths. And when his horse came back without him with a note, these four were like, oh snap, where's our mentor? And they went following where the horse came from, and then entered the mist, exited the mist, The horse is gone, and they're now in Barovia.
Yeah.
Which, they didn't know, I guess, at the moment.
Yeah,
but
we didn't know where we were. We
that's
just knew
where
we
they
were
are.
walking at that point. Yeah. So that was where we left off, and then we picked back up that game with us continuing to walk, not really knowing where we were going, other than following tracks that were kind of disappearing. So yeah, we walked and we walked. Eventually, we still always had that feeling of being watched. As we were going, and we started to see pools of blood. I say we started to see pools of blood, as in Norik started to see pools of blood and evidence of things going on.
Yes, he's very perceptive.
He decided not to share with the party. I'm not sure why, but probably good enough, because we skipped over some things there. I don't know if we skipped over any potential encounters there, but we definitely did bypass a couple of questionable areas, as Norik didn't tell everybody, and we just skipped merrily along.
It's hard to say if you guys skipped over a encounter with a wolf. Who could know these things? But it is possible. Now,
yeah.
I have noticed so far, speaking of the players not informing the others of something that only they picked up on or had happened to them, I think everybody has done that so far.
Oh yeah, no, everybody's had some sort of encounter where they picked up on something and
all the time.
Like, I don't think I should mention this, or maybe if I mention this, I'm gonna sound stupid, or maybe panicky.
So yeah, the party isn't the closest knit yet. They definitely they know each other and seem comfortable talking to each other and communicating, but they are definitely keeping secrets from each other, which is interesting.
We definitely we're party members for sure, but we're not 100% open with each other. This is not a family yet.
Yeah, you're not at the barbecue.
These are people that know each other, that went to school with each other, that are on the long road. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we did actually end up finding more blood, and we found Zith's body.
Oh, conveniently you went to that blood pool.
Yeah, we went to that blood pool, and we did find Zith's body, which was quite interesting because we found, he had been killed pretty brutally. We couldn't really tell how. This was the first body that we saw Hutzifer lay to rest with rites, like actual funeral rites. It took him about an hour to actually set the body on fire. There was a lot of trial and error there. But we actually did find a note on here, which was one of the first kind of interesting things to happen in this campaign, which was we found a note that was very similar to the note that we found on the horse when it came back to the school.
Interesting.
So it was, and I thought I was going crazy because I had the first
it's working.
note. Yeah, I had the first note, and then you hand me the second note, and I'm reading the second note, and I'm like, this is the same note, but written by a different person. And then I start examining the way it was written, and I feel crazy in here with a candle that I'm actually holding over both of these notes because it's dark in here. So I actually have a candlelight, and I'm holding it over, comparing notes, trying to figure out which one is the real note and which one is the fake note, because I'm pretty sure I have an idea of which one is the fake note and which one is real. But yeah, this was one of the most interesting first things to happen, which was dual notes that we got to figure out where we're going.
I'm glad you picked up on that instantly, though. This wasn't something where I had to be like, "Hey, did you notice that note was a little different, but also similar?" No, you're just like, wait a second.
Some may, right? Because I remember I started passing it around the table. I'm like, look at this. Does this look the same to you? It's not look the same to me. Something's going on here.
And I love the idea of that in character, too, that you'd be passing it around in the group like, everybody take a look at this.
Yeah.
I've noticed some similarities between these two pieces of parchment.
So yeah, luckily I did search the body a little bit more, found myself a cool bag before Hutzifer decided to set it on fire.
Always check the bodies.
Yeah, which we'll notice is a theme, which we'll get into later.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, he really likes to burn things. Is upsetting. But yeah, we found this new note and decided to keep on following the road because it looked like it was actually getting somewhere. We eventually did find a kind of a fork in the road where we had some signage, one of them telling us kind of Barovia. So now we kind of know a little bit more about where we're at. And we can see a city, sort of. So that's kind of where we decide to go. Even doesn't look like a living city.
Yeah,
but it
down the
looks
valley
like
next to a
city.
river.
Yeah. So that is where we decide to go. So we, head on down towards that city. And we don't come upon the city proper first. We come upon a fancy house first, which actually looks like a decent house.
Yeah, especially compared to the rest of the village.
Yeah, compared to the rest of the village. And it's the first thing we come upon, and it's actually got kids outside. So these are the first people that aren't not, mangled corpses on the side of the road that we have seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to try and talk to them. I believe me and Norik originally kind of approached them and started talking to them, to which Hootsver decided to go up and touch one of them.
Well, yeah, not in a weird way. He was putting his feathery hand on their shoulder.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, not. Yeah, yeah. We're not talking about that. He was. He was putting his hand up there to try and like comfort one of the children because they were obviously in distress.
Yes.
But at which point he went through them and they disappeared. So he realized these ain't regular children.
No, wait a second.
Yeah, these ain't good children. So I don't remember why we decided to go in the house.
Well, the children, before they disappeared into nothingness, did mention help us, our parents are in the basement.
Yeah,
they're fighting a monster, and our baby brother's upstairs.
Yeah, so it was more like we felt, oh, that's right, yeah, because we felt we had a duty to kind of help them because they were in trouble.
Yeah, and you still weren't sure about them disappearing part.
Yeah, that was weird.
I think you were at the time. This is really your first experience, other than finding Zith, mangled, just, in the woods. These are the first people you've done. And you did have a conversation with it before they disappeared, and I think maybe you were more interested and intrigued in the situation than frightened.
Yeah, and I think our original goal was that one of the things that they had said was that there was a monster in the basement.
Yeah,
and that their parents, everybody was in trouble essentially. So we kind of went into the house with the original singular goal to try and find the basement. That was one of the things that we were going to try and do. When we got into the house, we realized that it was a well-lived-in house, and it was not rinky-dink, not falling apart. It was actually kind of warm and inviting. We never went into the kitchen, even though there were nice smells coming from the kitchen. I think we went into almost every other room.
Yes, I think you actually did go into every other room except for the kitchen. And I'm you could smell baked breads and meats, and you're like, no.
Yeah, it's originally we came into the house and my whole thing was we got to go straight to the basement.
Yeah.
And I was all like, yep, we got to find the basement. We got to find the kids. We got to save the kids from the monster. We got to kill the monster. And everybody else is all like, hey, let's kind of look around the house first and see what we can find. And the more we looked around the house, the less urgent it got to go straight to the basement because we started to uncover things. We found a bunch of different rooms. I think the very first actual body that we found in the house was of the gentleman of the house. We found him hanging in his room. Which also had a moving rug in it that we definitely avoided for the entire duration of the house.
Yep, you never touched it.
Yep, and I wasn't about to. It was a bearskin rug that was moving of its own accord. Now, granted, a lot of these rooms that we went into were not well lit.
Well, as you went up to, I believe it was the third floor, the well-lived-in nature of the home,
it started to decline.
Immediately, faded. Yeah. And what was, well-dusted and lit and warm became,
the murder house.
Dusted in a different way. And, cobwebs, and it was very spooky and just a very different vibe as a whole.
Yeah, I believe before we actually found the man of the house's body and the main master bedroom, we found a drawing room that was the I say drawing room, but I'm not exactly sure what room it was. But essentially, it was a library where we had some books pulled.
Yes.
Which at which point opened a secret room.
Yes, because Norik
Norik was looking for books of poetry. I asked her,
and she was like, I'm looking for a book. And I'm like, okay, which of these are you looking for? And she rolled really well. And I had 4 books in mind, one of which would open the secret passage to the secret room. And that's the one she picked.
Yeah.
And the book swivels forward and blah, 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 small secret room. She had a 25% chance of picking that one, and she did.
Yeah. Now, this room is where things really took a turn as far as how we were investigating the house was considered. Because in this room, We found a chest with a dead body in it. Basically somebody who died trying to open the chest and get
Yes,
stuff
and
in
they had passed. It was a skeleton, not like fully inside of the chest, but like
somebody
partially
who died trying
like,
to get into the chest.
Opened the chest, been killed.
Yeah.
And then
now it is worth noting we didn't touch that chest. Like
yet
we did not. I saw a chest with a dead body in it, and I was like, that's a trap. He died. I don't want to get in that chest. Does anybody else in the party want to do it? And everybody else is like, nah, it can't be that important.
Yeah.
So we did not go into that
not
chest.
worth dying for.
What we did was go through everything else in the room, which was like a desk with some journals and stuff like that. And that's where we found out the lady of the house, or the people of the house, were essentially sacrificing travelers.
They were kind of culty.
Yeah, they were a cult. And they were basically luring people in and sacrificing them to their god, essentially. Somebody who they were worshiping. We also found notes from the person that they were worshiping, basically, doing what evil cult leaders do, talking down to their subordinates, calling them maggots and trash and all that fun stuff. So this is kind of where it really turned into more of a, we're inspecting this murder house to try and figure out what this family was doing, essentially, and realizing that they were kind of the bad guys.
Yeah. I don't even know if you were going to bring this up here or not, but you, the player, did something very interesting as well, as you decided to compare the handwriting of that note.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
To the other note you'd found on this body.
Yes, because we did get notes again, and I was all like, oh, wait, here we go. We have a second form of handwriting here that we can compare. Yeah, so then I started comparing that and quickly realized who these letters were actually sent from, that they were sent from the same person.
Right.
Which was pretty interesting. I like that.
It's great to be on one side of the screen and just like sit back and kind of just let the story unfold in front of me without me saying a single word.
It's really cool because unlike some of the other campaigns that I've played in where it's more like, I search the room, what do you find? A potion. Cool. You find a magic dagger. Neat. And then you go to the next room and then you maybe have an encounter or something like that. I feel more investigatory in this because I'm like, the handwriting on this note looks really familiar. Let me see that other note. And then I'm holding up 3 letters and comparing them all. And I'm like, does anybody have any lemon juice I can like squeeze on this? I think there might be some hidden text in here. Maybe if I set it on fire. But yeah, so we did find that, and like I said, we found more information about the people in the house being evil. So we decided to keep looking throughout the house. Like I said, we didn't touch that chest, and that's when we went upstairs. We found the man of the house. I forget his name off the top of my head right now. But we found him hanging in his room. We looked out the windows, which were all boarded up, essentially, or bricked up, so they weren't actually, there was nothing behind them. The curtains were just covering nothing, so we couldn't even let in outside light.
Yes, so the Durst family manor.
Yeah, the Durst, yeah. So at this point, we were depending on dancing lights and lit torches to kind of get us around the house. This is where I found the woman of the house's makeup desk, or her vanity, that I sat at and was kind of searching through to see if I could find out more about her. Because in the letters that I read, it sounds like she was really the one in charge. So she was kind of my focus as a player for this house, like trying to figure out where she was. Because my assumption at this point was she was the monster. Like she was the head one in charge of this cultist activity, and she was going to be the one that I needed to fix, the problem that I needed to fix. And this is where I actually started messing with her jewelry box, at which point when I pulled out her stuff, I decided that I was going to keep some of it, just as kind of like a connection to her. I didn't know if I would need it later, at which point I saw a ghost in the mirror behind me.
Yes, the ghost of...
So this is one of the, I guess, ask the DM. Oh. Was that her?
Was that Elizabeth Durst?
Was it Elizabeth Durst?
It was.
It was Elizabeth
Durst.
And
the man of the house you're referencing, that's Gustav Durst.
Okay.
And the ghost children you'd seen out front, that was Rosenthorn.
Rosenthorn, yep.
Right.
Yeah, and they have a baby brother, Martin, who we'll talk about later, right? Isn't it Martin?
Martin.
Is it Martin?
It's Walter.
Oh, God. So close.
Baby Walter.
Okay. But yeah, so I didn't know.
Maybe Martin's his middle name.
Yeah, that was one of the main questions I wanted to ask you was that Elizabeth? And I wasn't sure if it was a spoiler or not that Elizabeth was in the house.
That was Elizabeth.
Because, like I said, she was who I was trying to find. This was a very weird encounter because I don't know if it could have ended in a fight or not. or what would have happened here, but essentially what did happen was I took the necklace. Elizabeth came and she started creeping on me. I could see her in the mirror, and nobody else could see her. Only I could see her in the mirror, and she kept getting closer and closer. She touched me at one point, and she seemed to be movement activated. So every time I moved, she moved. Anytime somebody else in the room moved, she moved towards them if I stayed still. So it was kind of like a weird game of me telling everybody to hold still. It was like a stop and go kind of a thing,
right.
like red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, until she started going after one of my party members, at which point I decided it was probably safer to put the jewelry away to see if she would go away.
Probably safest.
And I did that, and she did go away. And I never touched the jewelry again.
You're missing out.
Yeah. So would that have ended in a fight?
So, absolutely.
Oh,
I had a
okay.
miniature ready to go. This absolutely would have been a fight. Now, one big thing about Elizabeth is she was essentially omnipresent as part of this house, right? We haven't gotten to it yet, so giant spoiler if, depending how you're running the game, etc. But the way I was running her is she is really, like you said, like the leader of this cult. She's the head honcho and is the big reason for the curse on this house. Like the house is alive, in this sense. This is Monster House. And you guys actually, and I'll get to it actually when we get later on the end after the dungeon. That's something you guys didn't do but could have. This is actually gonna be big to you, actually. But she was, like I said, omnipresent, and even if you had fought her and defeated her here, she would not have been gone. You would have just momentarily beaten this aspect of her, and you could have taken the jewelry. Now, it would have been a very difficult fight that could have absolutely ended in player death.
Ugh.
For sure. So that's interesting. Do with that as you will. You definitely took the safe outcome, even though you had to earn it through role-playing in clever choices. Because like you said, it kind of was like a red light, green light situation there. So I think you guys played it very well. In fact, as a whole, you guys played this entire dungeon of the Death House, the Durst family manor. You played it very well. And I was expecting significantly worse outcomes than we ended up with.
I mean, we had some pretty bad outcomes, and I felt like that encounter should have been a lot worse. I was all like, "Whoo!"
It would have been bad.
Like that was an encounter where it started happening, and I'm sitting at this vanity, and only I can see this thing, and immediately I'm like cold sweats, and I'm like, I'm about to kill everybody. We're about to cause a party wipe because I stole a pendant. This is bad. And I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this.
It was worth a lot of money though.
I don't know how to stop this from happening. And then I remember going back and forth, like you were doing something and then I was doing something and then you were doing something and then I was doing it and then Hootzifer was doing something for no reason. Just making it worse. And then it was like, I don't know what to do in this moment. And then this dawned on me. It's like, I'll just put it back and maybe she'll leave us alone.
And see if it goes away.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe this is enough to placate her, that she's really angry that I'm taking her jewelry. And so, yeah, that was a super fun encounter. I think it was probably one of my favorite moments in the Death House, in Murder House or whatever. That was probably one of my favorite moments. Not to be minimized by the pretty much almost next moment that happened, which was us leaving the bedroom, because at that point we're all like, yeah, the bedroom's done. We're gonna leave the bedroom here. Well, actually, no. The one thing that did happen before we left the bedroom is Hootzifer cut down Gustav,
yes,
and basically laid him more in a formal position on the bed.
Right.
So he wasn't like just hanging from the sheet from the ceiling anymore. But yeah, we walked out of the bedroom into the next room, which you described to us very elegantly.
And you found a note on him as well.
Whoa, what?
You found a note on Gustav as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did find a note on Gustav,
yes.
basically saying that like he felt super guilty about everything that he'd done, and this was how he was going to repent for it.
Yep, and he was, I wish the best for my children, etc.
Yeah. Oh wait, was there a ghost of Gustav somewhere in the house that we didn't see?
No, Gustav actually had passed away before the curse essentially happened.
Oh, okay. So there was never a ghost of Gustav.
Correct.
Okay. That was one of the questions I forgot to ask you, was if there was ever a ghost of Gustav that we didn't see.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we left Gustav's body and we went into the next room, at which point there was a very suspicious looking suit of armor. And you asked the marching order and how everybody was going through the room. Everybody in the room decided to go back kind of a wide girth around the suit of armor to go to the other side of the room, except for Hootsifer, who was all like, it's just a suit of armor. I'm just going to walk by it. And walked by it. And if you've ever had the image of the chicken trying to cross the road and getting hit by a semi or a large truck ever, this is the reenactment of that. Basically, he walked in front of the suit of armor. It swung and insta-clipped him in a poof of feathers.
I got to roll a natural 20. It was wonderful.
And he was down for the count.
It was nasty.
Yeah. And that was our first combat, like actual combat of the murder house. Because at that point, he went in the corner and was just feathers. And we had to spring to action, which was the first time we got to see Moses's axe do work.
The first of many.
Yeah, Moses's axe, that barbarian, did some work in this house. Like, jumped over Hootsifer's body and like almost cleaved the suit of armor in half in the first attack. Did some serious damage. We were able to get Hootsifer back up and into battle with a nice little healing word. And the suit of armor wasn't that tough. It was pretty easy. We had some really good rolls there.
For what is notoriously a very touch and go difficult encounter in the death house, you guys aced it.
Yeah, we had some really good rolls in this house in general.
For sure.
We had some really lucky encounters throughout the entire thing.
I mean, you look at the fact that this suit of armor has, it's heavy armor through and through. It's got an AC of 18.
Yeah.
It's hard to hit. It does decent damage back at you. You're level 1.
Yeah.
And you guys, it took out one of your party. It took out your healer.
Yeah.
And before the combat started in a surprise round, and you guys still clean shop.
Yeah, it was
amazing.
It wasn't a hard combat. We kind of breezed through it, which was good because he gibbed Hootsifer on one shot there, so I was a little bit worried from the get go. But yeah, like I said, barbarian doing work, laid it out. We found some more rooms in there. One of them was just a supply closet / bathroom-ish kind of area. Then we found probably the creepiest room in the entire house after
which
that.
Is saying a lot.
Which was a room with a crib in it.
The creepiest room in the house after we just left the room with the hanging man, the moving
the moving bear
rug.
I'll take
and
that
the ghost
any
lady.
Day. I'll take that any
Less
day
creepy over this.
Over the black lace covered crib that's rocking on itself in the corner. And whenever we walk through and we make any noise, an apparition tells us to shh and not wake the baby. That's creepy. That's super, super creepy. And immediately my plan was to use music to wake the baby up.
But you didn't.
Which I didn't. But I don't know why. I really wanted to try and wake the baby.
It's because at your heart you're full of chaos.
I don't know. It's not a great idea. I don't know. I legit thought maybe waking the baby was what we were supposed to do.
Interesting.
But then I was all like, I don't just want to walk over and wake the baby. I want to it's a baby. I want to see if it's a cute little baby.
Yeah.
I wanted to wake it up and hold it or something. But we never really got close enough to the crib to actually look in it. And
you got close enough to see through the black shot, and you saw the bundle.
Yeah,
and stuff,
a bundle. Yeah, but that's it. So it's I don't know. I wanted to use music to wake the baby up or something. I was going to play a little song for it, like a little lullaby or something on my violin.
You could have, yeah.
Yeah. Would it have killed us?
Would
she have killed us?
So,
because there was a nanny there.
Yes.
Yeah, we ended up talking to the nanny.
So that would have also been a very difficult fight.
Okay.
Probably not as difficult as Elizabeth if you had fought her, but pretty friggin' difficult. You definitely get more information by talking to her.
Yeah, so we did actually get some information.
Versus just, having a slugfest and potentially her wiping out some of your, max hit points.
Yeah, we got to a point where she did actually appear to us. We talked to her. We had a couple of interesting rolls, which I'm guessing were good enough to not get deaded.
Yeah, you weren't deaded.
By her. And
you didn't wake the baby.
Yeah, we didn't wake the baby. And she was actually pretty cooperative. And I kind of liked her. She was kind of legit. She turned out to be the mistress basically.
Ooh.
Yeah, of Gustav and the baby out of wedlock. Where we calling him?
It's
Martin. Walter. So basically, Walter was not Elizabeth's child. She was the nanny Mary and Gustav's child. So she was the one. And actually, this baby had been mentioned earlier in some of the notes that we found in the secret room.
Yes.
As being the apparition and like basically a demon child.
Yes. And those notes actually mentioned that the baby was stillborn.
Yeah, stillborn. Yeah.
So, there was a little bit of, well, if this baby's stillborn, why is the baby here?
Yeah.
A little, a mystery afoot.
Yeah.
But like you said, you never investigated the child.
Yeah, we didn't really do anything with the child there. We just kind of took the nanny on her word because she seemed legit.
Yeah.
She seemed like a cool chick. So we didn't fight her.
Cool chick.
Yeah,
That's
she
what I was
seemed like
thinking.
a cool ghost chick.
Creepiest room in the house. Cool chick.
Yeah, she's a cool chick. So we let her keep her baby, and we quietly found some stairs that went up to the
Little
attic.
secret passage.
Yeah,
and a
secret
little ladder.
passage that actually Norik found.
Yeah.
By examining the room, Norik found a switch that brought down a ladder, and we went up to the attic. In the attic, we actually found the actual children's room, Rose and Thorn, which actually we found a key earlier. I forgot to mention that.
I mean, there's a lot we're not.
Yeah,
mention,
we're glossing over, but
this was many sessions, and it
yeah.
was a great time, and there was a key.
But during this, we did find a key that we didn't know what it was for, and eventually we found a locked room up in the attic, and we tested the key in the lock, and turns out it was for that, and the door was locked from the outside. We get in there, we realize that it was actually the children from the beginning.
Yes,
Rose
we find
Thorn.
the saddest room of the house.
So this is the room that the parents locked them in and basically left them in to die.
Yes.
So this is where they did pass. We did find their bodies. Hootzifer went ahead and put their bodies on their beds, to try and give them a little bit of dignity. At this point, we had a decent conversation with the kids, where they didn't want to leave their room, and they were scared of everything, and we tried to comfort them and everything like that. And then we were going to leave the room, and that's when Thorn, the younger Thornby, the younger boy, Thornbolt, not Thornby, took over my body to attempt to keep me from leaving the room. So he jumped into my body, which was an attempt to, I guess, trap one of the players in the room, which I guess was the trap. So they would get into your body, you'd fail your checks and not be able to leave the room.
Well, they've been alone for so long.
Yeah,
they didn't want
out.
you to leave.
Yeah.
They wanted you to stay and play with them.
So they were going to force you to stay.
Yes.
Yeah. Which actually I was able to pass the check.
Yes, you did, of course.
And could leave the room with Thornbolt. But then we had Rose, who also didn't want to leave the room and would assumingly jump into your body and aggressively try and make you stay if you didn't do what I did, which was to just make her hitchhike into your body. So I basically went to her and was all like, hey, can I just grab her and make her jump into my body with her brother? And you're all like, you want to fail to save on purpose?
Well, I remember you asked, like, well, you convinced her, maybe let's go check on your parents and stuff. You can come with me instead of staying here alone. And her thing is like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna try. I'll jump in this person and I'll take over, and they'll make him stay. And of course, you pass that save too.
Yeah, and I passed that save, so I basically kidnapped the ghost children.
Yep.
In my body as my my tag along mental friends. And
they got to be together still.
And, they were together. Yeah, so they were a little bit panicky about leaving the room, but again, pass check. They didn't have a choice in the matter.
Well, at that point, if they get out of you, they're out of the room.
Yeah, so I was all like, whatever. We're just going to take them with us. And I was super hype at this point because I had two, guides.
Oh, yeah, and I gave you advantage on...
I had tourist guides.
Yeah.
I was all like, cool. I know everything about this house now. I'll just ask the Google Maps in my
them.
head.
I gave you advantage on perception checks. You could see, what was coming from behind you.
Yeah.
You had all these different bonuses.
Super cool. I was like, this is great.
For
I have,
3 minutes.
all of this cool stuff, and everybody's like, yeah, whatever, you got ghost kids in you. And I was like, this sounds great to me.
Right.
I love ghost kids. And we asked them to take us to the basement, so we were able to find the way down to the basement. One of the first things that we found in the basement were the tombs for all the family members.
Yes.
And Hootzifer was all like, oh, this means I gotta do last rites on the bodies that we found. And he did the father. So he went up and got the dad and brought him back downstairs and put him in his tomb. And we he was doing that, me and Norik and Moses were kind of like moseying around, looking around the basement a little bit, but not too far away from him. He did go back up and get both Rose and Thorn's bodies and bring them back down to their respective tombs and lay them to rest, at which point they immediately disappeared from my body.
Yep.
Yeah. And I lost all my advantages.
They all went away.
And my friendly kids.
Yep.
So I lost my new friends, which was very sad for me because I don't like being alone in my own brain pan.
And now it's quieter than it's ever been.
Yeah, I know. I was happy. I had 2 kids in my head and I was like, this is great. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of this whole campaign, but if I leave this house with 2 extra friends, this is a bonus for me.
It's nothing but a win.
I'm going to make Tyler DM these 2 kids as long as I can. If I can take these kids out of this house, I'm taking them out of the house. That was my plan, at least. But no, Hootzifer was all like, no, you're having way too much fun with this. I'm going to lay them to rest and make them disappear. Now, it should also be noted that one of the first things that we did have when we went into the basement was we started hearing the cultists.
Oh, yes.
So as soon as we got to the basement, we could hear the cultists chanting. And every time we kind of went down specific pathways, it got louder and louder. So once he laid the bodies to rest, it was pretty evident in the basement what we were going to do, which was to keep kind of moving towards the cultist chanting. So we started to do that. We poked around a little bit. There wasn't too much interesting that we found until we found a room with a statue, and I started to have flashbacks of the suit of armor.
Right.
Yeah, so I was all like, yeah, that's definitely not something that we should be getting close to which Hootzifer learned absolutely nothing in his previous encounter with the statue and was all like, nah, this is something, definitely a different situation here.
Now, to be fair, in Hootzifer's defense, because I know you're not going to say this, Richard was like, you should touch that statue. You should go touch that statue.
Richard is not a player in this.
No, Richard is a player. He's just not a character.
Trist is a character. Richard is just a person. Yeah. I'm just an innocent.
And Richard is like
in the corner.
Yo, CJ, you should have Hootzifer go touch that statue.
So the statue was holding an orb.
Yeah.
So I was all more like, you should go touch the orb. Because the orb looks important and I'm not going to touch it with my character. I didn't think he was actually going to do it.
I've gone through a lot today. I had 2 friends. I lost them shortly after. It's been a day.
You owe me. Go touch the statue.
Yeah. This is your fault.
So
all the while, he is the ancient. He is the land.
Yeah, he is the ancient. He is the land. It's going in the
walls.
background. And we get in this room and you're describing it and you're all like, yeah, it's creepy as hell.
Oh yeah, because he's like,
this room is scary.
Like, yeah, like do like, what's the vibe check here? He's like, the
bad vibes.
You're bad vibes. Run. You're a cleric. You could feel like a weighted blanket upon you, the threat of evil all around you. He's like, cool, I'm gonna go touch that thing.
Yeah, and touches the statue. And actually, that conveniently was the end of that night's session. Was he walked up, touched the statue, and then a shadow comes out of the statue and touches him back.
And grabs him on the arm.
Yeah, grabs him on the arm, and then that session ended for that night.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had to hang on that cliffhanger for 2 weeks before we came back, and we're straight into combat with the shadow statue, where it actually touched Hootzifer, did some real lasting damage, kind of. So basically he turned very black. He singed his feathers and it looked pretty gnarly. Didn't really think much about it during the actual combat. The combat was not just against one statue, monster.
It was one statue.
It was one statue, a ghost monster, and then more ghost monsters started coming out from behind the statue.
And the statue wasn't a threat. The statue never fought you.
No, but we did end up breaking the statue's orb.
Yes,
which we thought was like a set piece and we thought would do something.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to say it on the podcast in case other players are listening, but your character did receive a whisper.
Oh yeah, that's right.
When you broke the orb, you did the final.
Yeah,
you hit it with an arrow. The orb was destroyed. A black essence was dispelled from it, and your Well, I'll
Yes.
say your character heard something in their mind,
Yeah.
and Richard received a whisper, the
Yes.
first whisper of the campaign.
Yes, and I didn't disclose any of this.
No, because you guys
Yeah.
never do.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about that
Yeah, I
here
figured.
because we didn't disclose this. But yeah, we did that. The shadow monster ended up not being one, but multiple shadow monsters that we had to kill.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very funny fight, which was a lot of Hootsifer running away. Because he kept getting hit really hard, and he kept trying to run and try and reorganize the grouping of everybody on the table to, I guess, get better positioning.
Well, he did protection, from good and evil, which really helped.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Not, disadvantage on striking him and stuff like that, which probably saved his bacon.
Yeah.
But the bacon may not have been in trouble if he wasn't running, giving attack of opportunities in the first place.
It was a little bit of a Benny Hill scenario of him running, getting attack of opportunities, them closing him running, more attack of opportunities. So it was a lot of back and forth on that. But we did end up killing the shadow creatures, and we were pretty spent at that point.
Yeah.
So we decided to make this a resting point for the evening. So we set up watch, and we spent the night. Throughout the night, we started seeing eyes watching us. Some people saw it more than others. We woke up in the morning to find out that those eyes were a dog that was watching us.
A very malnourished little puppy.
It was a malnourished little puppy, but it still was very suspicious.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you be?
We
You were.
We never
Of the puppy.
really. I put this out here. We never really trusted the dog.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah, sure.
it did learn. It didn't learn. It knew commands. So we did use that, but we never really trusted the dog. The dog did follow us around. We searched some more rooms, found some more stuff. Tyler's reading the notes that I had written for this, which
I've got. I can't agree with what's written here, but if that's how you felt.
Yeah, so I have on here, is it a dog or is it a demon? Because I don't know. I don't know what this dog is at this point. But we do some more searching. We find some miscellaneous treasure here and there. Nothing super important.
Well, you find some miscellaneous treasure.
Yeah, which I didn't tell anybody about.
Of course.
They all left the room, okay?
Yeah, no, I get it. Secrets.
Yeah, so
That's what your guys like.
I
MO.
found me some treasure. Those it's going to be divvied up. I'm giving some of that treasure away next game.
You've had chances.
No, I haven't.
Many chances.
It has been crazy.
You have left the building entirely and still kept everything for yourself.
It's been crazy.
Look, you're not the only one who's found stuff and kept it for yourself.
Okay, so I'm giving away some of that stuff.
The
I'm going to. Trust
amount
me.
of health potions that Norik's holding on to right now.
Norik is a pharmacy at this point of health potions. It's insane. But anyway, yeah, so we found some treasure. We decide to deep track the cultists a little bit more. Involves us going even deeper into the dungeon. We find a bunch of artifacts, the most interesting of which is a frog on a stick, which is very interesting. Just a frog wand with a dehydrated, frog on the end of a stick. Very, very cool.
I love the amount that you fixated on this frog on a stick.
There's a lot of artifacts in that room. This was the most interesting of them all. Should be noted, didn't touch it. Didn't touch any of those artifacts. Yet. But we did find the room full of cultists. So we go in, the chanting gets louder and louder. We get into a room with an altar in the middle of it, water all around it, big pile of bones in the corner. There's really nobody in here. We can hear it though, right?
Yeah. Oh no. Well, you get into the room, and once I believe it was Hootsfer stepped up on like the pedestal in the center.
Yeah. Once he got to the altar,
the dark apparitions appeared on the edges overlooking the room, all around the room.
Yes. Yeah.
And the chanting actually changed to "One must die."
Yeah.
One must die. Over and over and over again. And this is one of my favorite parts of the Durst Manor, because everyone like looks around, and I believe you made like a perception check or something.
I tried to make a perception
and
check. There was a 1.
Your natural 1 turned into you looking around the room really quickly, and it's just quite dark, and it appears to you that it's just a bunch of cultists all holding frogs, or sticks with frogs on the end of them.
Which is terrifying. Because I know that's one of the most important artifacts.
Yeah, of course.
In the previous
How
room
powerful this must
is
be.
the frog sticks. Yeah. But yeah, they're chanting now, one must die, right? So we've obviously got to make a sacrifice, and we have a demon that's with us right now that is very, malleable. It does what we want it to do. The dog, it heals and it follows us and stuff like that, and it looks innocent enough.
It's a very good puppers.
It looks innocent enough, but
very good boy.
We clearly know that it's not just a dog, that it is a demon of some sort, and we can't kill one of us, right? So one of us can't die, and
there's no way there's anything else killable in the room.
They're chanting.
Why even look?
We can't know that. There's no way that we can know that there's
no
anything
way,
else in this
there's
room
no way to look
that can be sacrificed. And Hootzifer is the one who's like, let's just kill the dog.
Yeah, just without a moment. Just one must die. Just one?
Yeah, just one. Just one must die.
Okay, we got one.
And it's the demon dog. Nobody stops him from taking the dog and carrying it over to the altar and stabbing it through the heart.
You guys are monsters. Yes, you've proven to me that you are the villains.
It's a demon.
You fit into Barovia.
It is an
so
evil
well.
dog.
I thought you were going to be different.
It was an evil dog, so nobody stopped him. So yeah, he did kill the dog. So one did die, which resulted in the summoning of a giant flesh monster.
Yes. The chanting then became Lorgoth the Decayer. We awaken thee.
Lorgoth the Decayer.
Followed by the end comes, death be praised.
Yeah. So the
wonderful times.
The big pile of bones in the corner that probably had more living stuff in it. Later, we found out there were some rats.
Maybe some rats.
Yeah, there could have been some rats that we could have sacrificed instead of the demon dog. But what's done is done.
Demon dog. I like to think of cute, adorable, loving puppy. But
what's done is done.
Sure, it can't be undone. That's true.
Flesh monster does appear, and insane combat ensues. So we have a gigantic flesh monstrosity that's trying to kill us. We're doing pretty good in the fight, except for Norik healing it a couple of times because necrotic damage against the necrotic beast is not great, turns out.
There's only one to find that out.
We had one turn of like, I just did 18 damage, and Norik's like, I healed 19 of it. And we're all like, this is awesome. When we got Hootzifer, gets eaten by the whole thing.
Yep.
And decides to do a new strategy, which is to crawl deeper inside of the monster, because he had a check once he got eaten, and it was a perception check, at which point he could hear sounds coming from deeper inside the monster.
Right.
Yeah. And then had some amazing rolls.
Yes.
For saves and movement. Like, he just was rolling 20s all night long.
2 natural 20s in a row.
Yeah, 2 natural 20s in a row. Insane. On real physical dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were giving him a bunch of crap about not rolling in a dice tray, and then he did, was doing these insane, incredible rolls.
He takes the dice and like lobs it across the table for these rolls.
Yeah, and just kept rolling. He was on fire. Eventually crawled his way to the middle of the flesh monster, where we found out that it was actually being piloted by a stillborn baby. It was a flesh mecha, if you want to envision that in your mind. So yeah, this was basically like an anime mech. Made of bodies.
I feel like I described this badly.
With the baby in the center piloting it.
Maybe you got a different, version of this than I meant to describe. I blame me only for this.
No, that's pretty much how I remember it. And Hootzifer is all about laying bodies to rest.
Yes.
So he's all true. Like, that's a baby, and it's not alive. It's acting alive.
I gotta lay that thing to rest.
But I'm gonna lay it to rest. So he ended up wrestling it free from the inside of the flesh mech, and basically used his cleric powers to burn a hole through it down to the floor, and that didn't kill it. But apparently did a significant amount of damage.
Absolutely.
What we were told
removing
after the fact.
Walter. Yep.
Yeah, so we removed Walter from his flesh mech, and we finished off the fight with Hootzifer cradling a baby in a Bjorn and fighting with the dead baby. And then while we were killing the flesh mech, and we eventually did kill it, we dropped it, at which point Hootzifer decided to lay the baby to rest, because at that point he was no longer even like moving or anything like that. Wasn't making any sound.
Oh, once the
flesh mech was dead. Yeah. And once he did that, then we noticed a big change in the house.
Yes.
Which was, I guess, the curse being dropped. So the house basically reverted to an ancient state.
Yes.
So everything that once seemed like it was lived in now was no longer lived in.
Mm-hmm.
So
like
the
a house that had been sitting unoccupied
Yeah.
for hundreds of years, perhaps.
Yep, went basically to rest. So the entire house essentially got laid to rest. No more haunting. Everything kind of felt chill at that point.
Laying the house to rest. That's an interesting phrase.
Yeah. Now, at this point, I did go get my frog stick.
Yes, he did grab the frog stick.
Because obviously I know the power that it holds. Because an entire cult was using it.
Oh, that reminds me. Hootzifer did, brave up and decide to go down a hall that he was once afraid to walk down.
The spooky hall.
And he found a map.
Yeah, we found a map down there,
finally
which is super useful.
Found a map of Barovia, solidifying where you are.
Yeah, we were actually able to see markers on the map of where we had already been.
Right.
So we can actually tell where we were on this map as well, which was pretty cool. But yeah, so after the house was laid to rest, we decided that it was probably a little bit better to explore some of the areas that we didn't do. So we found that map. We went back to the chest room where the guy had died in the trap. In there, we found a deed to the house, as well as deeds, basically will and testaments that left the house to the children.
Mm-hmm.
And also property deeds for another piece of property, which is a windmill.
Right.
And other properties owned by the Dursts, which weren't listed, but basically said that all properties, could be deeded via this thing.
Right.
So we kept both of those. I decided to look around the house a little bit more for anything Elizabeth related, because I was still convinced that Elizabeth was not dead.
Right.
At this point. So that was the main question that I was saying earlier in the episode when I was all like, I might ask you a question that you're not going to answer, which was, is Elizabeth dead or not?
Do you want to know?
You told me she's a ghost.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say yes.
So I had assumed at this point, and I was like, I'm not sure if Elizabeth is still here or if she left this house.
She's hiding in the walls.
Right. Like she did all the nasties and then is now still out there in the world and we got to hunt her down. Like she's goal number 2 or whatever. But through looking through the journals and everything like that, we obviously didn't find any evidence of Elizabeth having survived this whole ordeal. So we decided to leave the house. So we eventually left the house, at which point we found a gift basket outside for us.
I like to think, if we take a step back, once Walter was taking, had his life taken too soon by Elizabeth, when she sacrificed him, and this dark power that came into the house by just this vile act of cruelty, followed, of course, this, many terrible deeds leading up to this point. This was the final straw. And once this amalgamation, Lorgoth, had been created by all of this, surrounding Walter's body in this instance, that the cultist and Elizabeth herself were completely consumed by this creature.
Yeah.
So, in a way, you fought her.
Yeah. We did actually fight Elizabeth in the end. Yeah, because we never did find her body.
Right. Well,
yeah, which, now we know it was Lorgoth.
Boots Fur probably crawled through some of it.
Yeah, he probably crawled through a little bit of it. But yeah, we did end up leaving the house in its current state, now dormant and no longer cursed, to find a gift basket from
some
Strahd.
Wine, some, fresh fruits.
I didn't trust anything in the basket. Norik took everything from the basket.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's a gift from a gracious host.
It was weird. It's definitely weird because it kind of solidifies the fact that we're definitely being watched. And he knows that we're in that house. He knows what we're doing here.
He's like Santa Claus in that sense.
But why doesn't he care that we were in that house and fighting a curse? Or why not intervene or anything? I don't know.
Well,
so I guess we'll see.
I guess there's a couple ways to look at that. One, you've gotten hints here and there that Strahd's been aware of you. And
well, yeah, we're here because of him.
And 2, you saw how Strahd, via the note, how Strahd felt about the Durst.
Yeah.
And what was happening there.
So maybe we did him a solid, like cleaning up one of his little messes.
Perhaps. That's one way to look at it.
Yeah. But either way, now we know that he knows, which we kind of already knew, just by the notes and the little bit of detective work that we've done. Now everybody knows that everybody knows. Yeah.
That Strahd knows.
And I was kind of hyped because now we got a house.
Yeah.
And we got a deed to this house.
Which is awesome.
We got property now. And
at this point, you've leveled up to level 3.
Yeah.
You know, after the
we're
Lorgoth
level
fight,
3 now.
you're new in this area, and you're potential homeowners.
Yeah, we're potential homeowners.
That's awesome.
Now.
As a group of adventurers, you can like build up upon this place.
Yep. And Hootzifer has like, you know, he's made a sacrament in this house. He's like laid people to rest. It's basically like a nice, peaceful little family cemetery and everything like that.
Absolutely.
And then his arson side comes out again. He decides to burn the house down. So he tries to burn the house down. I try and stop him from burning the house down. He doubles down on burning the house down.
Well, you know, he takes a torch, whatever, to the outside of the house, and then which, of course, it starts raining. It's pouring immediately, extinguishing the flames.
So
to which he's like, all right, well, I'm going to throw a torch inside the house.
Yeah. Which I'm just saying as a character, I don't really understand because, you know, he's supposed to be like this cleric, man. He's like basically burning down a cemetery at this point, right? Because he laid bodies to rest in there. Now he's burning it down.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to make sure, you know, nothing like that ever happens to anyone else.
I don't know. I don't trust it. And now we don't own a house anymore because he burned it down.
Well, you know,
as far as we know.
Yeah.
Because
some dice rolls.
I decided to leave because I was angry because he burnt down my house.
Your house.
So I left him.
House.
It was our house, okay?
Our house.
But he made the choice for the group to burn down our new house.
Sure.
And our property. So we angrily walked away towards the city that we now were close to.
Hold on. I'm going to read the notes for this section on our on our notes for this podcast. I'm reading this for you. I'm reading this for you, CJ. In case you're listening. Crazy party member just burns it down. Hates wealth and property ownership, obviously.
I may have written that in a place of anger.
That's so good.
But yes, clearly he hates wealth and property ownership.
Oh, God. That's so funny to me. Guys, I'm supposed to follow these bones of our notes and not, like, just lose it. That's so good.
So yeah, we leave the maybe burning down house. I'm too mad to look back to make sure that it's not on fire. But we leave the maybe burning down house to find our way into the city that we were originally approaching. At which point, we hear some of the loudest crying on the planet. Enough to where it's like raining on us and we're going to a town, but we can navigate the town via cries.
Yeah, like the sobbing echoes off the walls.
It's very loud crying. At which point we decide to split the party. Because we're still angry. Well, I say me. I'm still angry at Hootzifer.
As a party, everyone, we all hate Hootzifer. All of us.
I'm angry at Hootzifer. And he's all like, I don't want to go to the crying. So immediately I have to be contrary. And be all like, that's where I'm going. You can do whatever you want.
Really? I love crying.
I love crying. And I'm going to find out who's crying and make it stop. And I march off towards the crying. 2 of the party members follow me. Hootzifer doesn't because he wants to go find a church.
Yeah.
Because he probably wants to repent for all the arson that he's been doing lately.
The puppy killing.
He's got to go pray about puppy killing and all the arson that he's committed. So he goes to find a church and we go to find the crying. So this is our first party split. Hootzifer goes off to talk to the reverend of a church who Donovan. I thought was definitely going to kill him.
Well, you say that because of the conversation. You know, we're doing this a little out of order. You guys actually found Mary.
Yeah, we found another Mary who was crying.
Yes, you find her before we get to Lucifer going to the church.
And basically, we get a side quest from her to find her daughter,
right,
who has gone missing, who hasn't shown back up to
her little girl's been missing.
Her little girl's been missing for a long time, which is sad. So we want to help her.
Yeah,
and she tells us how bad of a person Father Donovan is.
Oh yeah, because you were asking about the church in town and stuff like that.
Yeah, we're like, that's where our friend is, at the church. I hope nothing bad happens to him over there.
Hard cut.
Yeah, hard cut to him talking to Father Donovan.
Knock.
Yeah, and he has a nice conversation. Doesn't get killed.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't get killed. So he has his conversation with Father Donovan, which is not privy to us, essentially. So that's another secret. He's keeping all his stuff secret over there. During which we leave the woman. We find an inn for us to go to where we can get a room. So we do find a room at this inn. Hootzifer eventually finds the inn too, because the father tells him where to go for a nice place to stay. Happens to be the same place that we're at. He comes into the inn where we're at. We sit around, get some drinks, get some rooms so we can have a place to stay for the next couple of days. We see a couple people in this bar, a couple different groups of people. I zero in on one of the people in specifics who appears to be drunk, and I try and charm him up a little bit, talk to him, make friends, buy him a drink.
Sure.
We end up finding out that he is actually the son of the burgomaster, or the leader of the area.
The burgomaster, yes.
Burgomaster. The Burgermeister. So this is his son. And the Burgermeister is who we've been trying to find, because he's the one that's referenced in a lot of these letters, which we never really touched on before, which was kind of the reason why we're going there. We touched on it in the very first Strahd check-in, which was his daughter was injured, like grievously injured, and needs help for us to help her. And turns out we're talking to the son and brother of this daughter, I believe, right?
Son and, well, when you say son and brother, that's just a funny sentence.
Son of
the burgomaster,
but brother to the aforementioned.
You're talking to Ismark.
Yes, we're talking to Ismark, and it's his sister that has been injured.
Irina.
Irina. So we find out that this is actually his son, and we're all like, okay, well, can we meet your dad? And he's all like, yeah, you can meet my dad. It wasn't that direct, because it was a lot of him not wanting to be my friend.
It was
forcing a friendship upon him.
It was a lot of, no.
Yeah, there was a lot of no's.
And then you bring up the letter that you had found, the note about Irina, and that's where things changed.
Yeah. Yes. And he agrees to take us to see his father and see Irina. We get to go to his house, which was not the house I thought it was going to be on the map. I thought they were going to have a little bit fancier of a place, but it was a nice little place.
It's a nice place.
It's a nice place. We get there. We get a brief.
The house is almost the size of the church.
It's a big
pretty
house.
Big
yes.
house.
We get a brief glimpse of his hot vampire sister, which is just going on the artwork that you showed me. So she's yep, I stand by my statement. Hot goth sister who's probably a vampire
with her auburn hair, which only auburn hair you've seen.
Yeah.
Everyone else has had like dark blacks or browns.
Exactly. Lets us in his house. And we get to the last thing we get to do is meet his dad before this session ends. But his dad is in a coffin and dead and standing up for viewing. So yeah, we do get to meet the Burgermeister, but he's not as nearly alive as we wanted him to be. And that's where our session fades to black.
Yep, unfortunately.
Yeah. So we found him. But
not quite the way you expected.
Not quite the way we expected. So now we have a not super cooperative brother.
Well, he seems to have really changed.
He's a little bit better.
Once you mentioned the note specifically.
We have a sister who doesn't look as worse for wear as the letter implies.
Sure.
Right? And then we have him who is just in his coffin and dead, which is going to make getting the signature that I required from him on the property deeds that we took from the house a little bit tougher.
Well, you know how things like this go. If the father dies, next in charge.
True.
You've already got a foot in the door.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we'll still get the signature I need to make these properties ours. But we'll see. That was our adventure in the murder house, which was a lot of fun. It was a very interesting house, and a lot of really cool stuff happened in there. Not the least of my favorite being the encounter with Elizabeth Durst. And
so I'm actually glad you enjoyed the death house as it was, because the death house in the module is, well, it's at the end of the book. It's an optional thing you can throw in there to get your players from levels 1 to 3, XP to level 3. And it can be run as a one shot for like a spooky night or something, and just be very difficult. It's notoriously difficult, and yet none of you guys died, and I was worried that you weren't going to enjoy it because it was more like a dungeon crawl than the rest of this module looks like it's going to be. So I'm glad to hear that you actually had memorable events that you enjoyed. and not just like, okay, are we done with this freaking house yet? Which is what I was worried about.
No, and it definitely wasn't. And it didn't really feel like a dungeon crawl. I mean, we had combats in there, obviously.
Sure.
You know, we fought the suit of armor. We fought the flesh mecha. We fought the the statue demon.
You had at least one optional fight that two fight,
two optional
that you
fights. Yeah,
purposely avoided.
That we avoided. Yeah,
Definitely.
But it didn't feel like a dungeon crawl. Like, it just felt like us exploring something cool and finding a lot of really cool stuff. You know, like finding maps and finding notes that contradicted notes that we had already received and notes that tied into notes that we had already found. So it was very lore heavy, and I felt was like a really cool vehicle for moving us forward.
This is why I chose to include the Death House, because we could have been a few sessions deeper into the actual campaign by now, but I like the way you can take the Death House, and we actually kind of mentioned this on our world building, where you can take what's there in the module, flesh it out a bit, and add more story and motivation into your world. And this was something where it's an optional encounter, essentially, that you can take and throw in, move it into the Curse of Strahd proper and build out more world lore with it. And now you've had encounters with these ghost children and the Durst and stuff like that. And it's already like, okay, well, why did this family choose to start this cult? Were they always like this? Did they, they at least cared enough about the children to not, involve them with the cult? They locked them away for their own protection and to keep them away from the monsters in the basement, air quotes, the monsters being the parents.
Yeah, they were the monsters.
They were monsters all along. And I like how much is there. And then you get this little flavor taste of, because I threw in the basket, of course, this flavor bit of Strahd, like, hello, welcome. Here's a gift. Well, welcome to my country. And I like that because now you're already going into this like, all right, this place is not chill.
Yeah, not chill at all.
And who is this person just leaving us gifts? Like, what is all this happening? You've got this, you've got this thing with this dog that you guys decided to snuff out very quickly. We'll see if maybe that comes back or anything like that. You've got a will, and like your character has this whole, like you mentioned, like, oh, the father's passed away. What do I do now? You've got like motivations for things that wouldn't exist if the Death House was just taken out. If it was not included. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I guess if you're on the fence about including this house in your campaign, I say do it because it's cool. It was a lot of fun.
I looked at it as a cool way to, one, XP level 3, but to give your players a little bit of time to, really like get into the boots of their characters and learn combat at a pace you can control before you're, rolling on randomly generated travel combats and stuff like that.
Yeah. And,
still be able to, seed a little bit of world knowledge all while they're confined to a space.
Yeah. And like you said, it's a really good kind of like way to get you into this world and see kind of like what you're really in for.
Yeah.
So it like kind of sets up the ball as far as like, this is a creepy place and there's a lot of bad stuff that's going on here.
Yeah.
And you can expect more of this. So, but yeah, a lot of fun.
Did you have any questions so far, or anything from
this
little
answered
bit
them.
we've done?
You answered them, really, yeah. Everything else now is me just really getting antsy about getting to the next play because there's stuff I need to do.
Yeah,
I got to divvy up some loot.
Right. And yeah, we it's a minute. One of our players is actually in another state for a little bit, so we've been doing a couple of things. We did a one shot recently. We mentioned in a previous episode the Epic Encounters. We introduced a friend who had never played D&D before. We introduced him via Epic Encounters, so go back and listen to that if you haven't. And pretty soon we're actually going to be doing a Waterdeep one shot, and then after that we're going to jump into Candela Obscura one night for a one shot, and then we're going to do an episode talking about that and our experience there.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit before we check in with Strahd again.
Yes,
because we've got a couple of things going on, like you just mentioned, before we're checking in with Strahd again.
Yep. And we definitely, we don't want to do too many of these updates, but we did want to, we actually have had some people ask for this, and we don't want it to be too long in between updates. We want it to be fresh, but it'll, we don't want to put them out too often either. We're trying to like figure out,
We'll
gauge
space it
the
out.
flow of how what would feel natural to push them out. But either way, thank you for listening. We're glad you guys are here as always, and we appreciate you very, very much.
Yep.
Until next time, I've been Tyler,
And I've been Richard.
and we've been True Strike.
Bye.
Hey adventurers, thanks again for joining us today. Please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Twitter or Instagram. New episodes release every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike. Hello adventurers, my name's Tyler.
Oh shit. Ah! I'm just like, I'm gonna read.
What's he gonna say next?
I don't know. This is interesting. We've never done this kind of update opening before.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I am this time. I promise.